Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third video of Model UN, and we'll be going over moderated and unmoderated caucuses.
Thank you, Vinod. So, what is a moderated caucus, right? A moderated caucus is a formal and regulated form of debate. And, Rizwan mentioned this on the first video, but there's a flow that happens in Model UN. Delegates motion for things, and the chair votes on those. The chair takes those motions, and the committee votes on them, and we slowly progress through the different motions. One of these motions is a moderated caucus. And during a moderated caucus, it's going to be one speaker at a time. This is not going to be an informal debate. This is going to be a speaker that is speaking and presenting their thoughts, and the other delegates are taking notes, passing notes to other delegates, and listening attentively. Now, how much time do you get for the speech, right? You get 30 to 90 seconds. This is the usual, most often you'll get between 30 and 90 seconds. And the total time for a moderated caucus is going to be 10 to 20 minutes. And this total time essentially dictates how many speakers there are going to be in the moderated caucus. For example, if you have a 60-second per speaker with 10 minutes, that means that moderated caucus is going to have a chance for 10 speakers to give a speech. Once a conference gets started, some delegates might use the abbreviation MOD. A mod is essentially a moderated caucus. Now, the goal of this moderated caucus is to discuss specific elements of the topic, right? I think Rizwan gave a very good example in the first video about defining terms and other sort of specific things that need to be taken care of before the committee can advance. In more controversial topics, this caucus is a chance for countries to debate each other and to present their conflicting ideas, and also show who has the most eloquence and who has the best speaking ability, because this is your time to show that. Model UN is a combination of teamwork, and speaking. You have to be able to speak and present your ideas. Last video or 2 videos ago, we covered the GSL speech. This speech is prepared ahead of time. A moderated caucus speech is not prepared ahead of time. So this is something that is different from a GSL speech, and we have to keep that in mind as we go through a conference.
And so next we'll move on to how you motion for the moderated caucus. So you just begin with a simple format. The delegation of blank country would like to motion for a moderated caucus on the topic of blank for 15 minutes with a 1-minute speaker time. That's only an example. It's up to your jurisdiction as to how long you want the speaker time to be and how long you want the entire moderated caucus time to be. So you can motion, for example, a 10-minute moderated caucus with a 30-second speaking time. It all depends on the topic at hand, what you need to discuss, how long you think you need to discuss it. So normally the recommendation for speaking time is 30 to 90 seconds. The perfect median would be 60, so ideally 60 seconds and no more than 15-20 minutes. And that'll be voted on by the entire committee. And motions will be voted on in order of disruption. So you need a simple majority to pass by placard, and there will be multiple motions, usually clashing with each other, depending on how many people motion for a caucus. And you can motion for an extension at the conclusion of the moderated caucus, but that can only be done one time. After you've extended once, you need to either rejuvenate or reintroduce a new moderated caucus or some other form of debate, or just close the moderated caucus. And lastly, just remember math. You need to remember how to divide up your speaking time with your total time. That's it for moderated caucuses. And I'll pass it on to Rizwan.
Me. Oh, no,
sorry,
I'm next.
back.
Yeah. So
Apologies.
now on to unmoderated caucuses, which is basically an informal and collaborative form of debate. As you can see with this lovely picture down here, everybody is just standing up around the room and talking to each other. It's going to get pretty loud, as there's going to be everyone's going to be talking at once. And basically, usually people will motion for unmoderated caucus for 15 to 25 minutes. Sometimes I've even seen 30 minutes, and sometimes I've even seen as low as 5 to 10 minutes, just if they want to finish like an unmoderated caucus that they motioned for too little time before and they want to add more time to it. So add like 5-10 minutes. That's totally fine. And the purpose of unmoderated caucuses are to form a block, and a block spelt BLOC is basically just a group of people that have similar interests to you that you are going to work together with to write the resolution. So in the unmoderated caucuses, you'll as before in the conference during the GSLs and moderated caucuses, you would have hopefully already taken notes as to which countries support your position and which oppose it. And the unmoderated caucus is the time to approach those countries that have supported your position and talk to them further about your proposed solutions. You guys might have different solutions. That's likely going to happen. Debate on which solution would be better or why one may not work, one may work. And yeah, that's just time to collaborate all that for the blocks. And the purpose of forming blocks is for the ultimate end goal of the Model UN conference, which is to write resolutions and pass them. So with your block, you can write resolutions later down. We'll talk about that later, but don't feel obligated to stick to a particular block just because they're the first people you met, because they may not be the right ones. More often than not, the people that you meet at first, they are probably not the right people to work with, at least in my experience. And I've found other people later on, and I moved to different blocks and finished the conference and wrote resolutions. So these are not binding. You can switch out at any time. You can leave. You can get more people to join. It's all really flexible. And now we'll move on to how to motion for an unmoderated caucus. I think that's Rizwan.
Yeah, thanks, Vinod. So when you want a motion for an unmoderated caucus, so shown on the screen is like the formula. So let's say I'm the delegation of France. So I would say the delegation of France would like to motion for an unmoderated caucus for 15 minutes. This is a little different from something like a moderated caucus, where would you have the total time and then the speaking time per person. Obviously, it's an unmoderated, so you're not in that rigorous structure like a moderated. So you're just setting a total time, and you're not required to specify a topic. Sometimes I've had chairs that have been with the topic of, just to clarify. That's not a big deal. Just say, for the purpose of writing for purpose of forming blocks, purpose of resolution writing, whatever the purpose is. But obviously that just depends conference to conference. And this motion is most disruptive. So what that means is that so when multiple motions are put out on the floor, so you have maybe one person wants motion for a moderated caucus for 10 minutes to discuss possible solutions to a certain problem. And then you have an unmoderated caucus for the time of 15 minutes. The unmoderated caucus will be voted on first. And then you have if there's another unmoderated caucus, it'll be who has more time, and then it will go down to a moderator. So that's also really big if you want to get your motion passed. And that can also be seen by the chairs for an award. And when you're going to motion for an unmoderated, so there's usually 3 times. So first, after a repetitive unmoderated caucus. So that's if you see, we're going, like, we've had 2 moderated or 3 moderated in a row. Usually it's 2, and sometimes the chair will smile upon a motion for an unmoderated, or sometimes someone will just speak up and say, we need we'll just motion for unmoderated. This is a great time. And if you do this, like after 2 moderated or even after 1, it sets a really good standard for you, because Parley Pro procedure, and you sound like you know what you're doing. The other thing is resolution writing. So after forming blocks and after presenting or possible solutions, things like that, you can motion for an unmoderated caucus to then go into actually writing the resolution, which is why you're there in the first place. So it's really important to get that out of the way. And then before the end of a session, so this could be, I don't know specifics about this, but, it could be for many different things. You can do an unmoderated caucus for an amendment, which I think we'll touch on later, if you want to amend a resolution, or certain things like that. If you want to just talk to a opposing block or opposing resolution to see, if there can be a way to fix things in both sides. And it can even sometimes be for fun. Last conference I went to, the chair smiled upon a motion for unmoderated caucus to take a selfie. That was kind of weird. It was, I don't know what was going on, but sometimes these sort of things happen. So unmoderated caucus is interesting, is that it's flexible, and it can allow you to really go out of your bounds and really take control of a conference and a committee.
Yeah, so if no one else has anything else to say, that's basically it for part 3 of these videos. We'll see you next time for part 4, which is going to be about resolution writing. Peace out.